Are the media outlets twisting information about peptides and putting all of the focus on Ozempic? I'm Dr. Rachel Hamill, and this is the Unfiltered Healing Podcast. Check out this clip from our latest podcast all about peptides and peptide therapies and discover the answer to this question.
Yeah, good question. I mean, that's hopefully the big part of what is going on with potential changes at the FDA of helping these be, I would say, regulated properly. The day after the election, there were, something that RFK put out was directly about the regulation of peptides, but in a positive way. He said that the suppression of information about them, because what different groups have put out is that there's at least 200 different of those 7,000 being peptides being researched by pharmaceuticals to see how they can patent it. The reason that they're trying is in large part because they're so safe. Most drugs, for example, if they are a $7 billion drug, they expect to have $1 billion worth of lawsuits and malpractice and hurting people. So it's like that's what's built into peptides have really shifted that. That they're so safe that if they can change one molecule or change the delivery mechanism, or that there might be a way to get a patent on it. So that's been, but those studies on them are not being released to the large public unless the drug does get FDA approved. And so that's where semaglutide and tirzepatide, and now retatrutide is the newest one that may come out in that same class of medications. And I do use them. I use semaglutide and tirzepatide. These are peptides that do also exist largely in the gut, glucagon-like phosphate 1 and glucagon inhibitory peptide, GIP. And unfortunately, just like everything, there's news on both sides that it's God's gift to this world, which it's not. It's one of the many amazing molecules he's designed it. And then there's others that, it causes thyroid cancer and all this. And that's been debunked at this point. So as far as we know, once Ozempic got FDA approval, to try to get all the compounding pharmacies and other places making semaglutide to stop making it, there was some reverse media put out to try to basically scare people into not using it from anywhere but Ozempic. So we get to go into really the weeds on it, but I mean, they are trillion-dollar industries if we can help people with mitochondrial dysfunction, with metabolic syndrome, with all these energy-related conditions. There's a reason that Casey Means wrote a book about good energy, and that I do agree. There are mitochondrial-specific peptides that are incredible, and so how do we get them? I only use four places now, but 3 main places for peptides, and I know the people that make them. I've been able to, if I want, go tour the facilities. The biggest thing is you can find these things on research-only websites, but if you look at them and they're also making right next to them anabolics, SARMs, I would not trust those things because I work with a lot of athletes that do get tested. That's the obvious thing. Like, don't put anything in your body that's not going to help. But it's usually cross-contamination that's the issue more than once it's already been isolated from the body, it's not for good pharmacies and chemists. It's not that hard to keep making that molecule, like reproduce it for most of these peptides. It's just a matter of, are they actually being developed? Like, for example, I had a patient yesterday. He's a firefighter up in LA. Thank the Lord he's up there fighting. And but he got peptides somewhere online. They've been sitting at home for over 2 weeks. No one told them they had to be refrigerated. Well, some people say you don't have to refrigerate them until after you reconstitute them, the injectable forms. There's almost no way that thing's going to help him. Maybe I hope it does, but even if it was BPC and TB 500 to start, which I don't use TB 500, it's a whole other talk. By the time he actually injects it a few weeks later when he gets back, there's almost no way that there's still the original compound. It does have to be generally refrigerated for an injectable. So I guess I'm using more the negative, like the what not to do, but the research-only peptides online don't seem to be having an effect. I'm open, like I've tried most of them myself, to be perfectly honest. If I could get them cheaper, I would, but I only work with those 3 or 4 places at this point, and that's me being as conservative as possible. And generally, my rule is that patients come to me and they're like already going to use peptides, and then I help them source them and do them as well as possible. I'm not usually trying to convince new people necessarily to use peptides because in the end, I think God could heal people in any given way. But I've seen the most breakthrough with peptides at this point in my journey, especially when people are thinking, hey, I really want to get on testosterone to put on muscle or improve whatever their goal is. It's cool to be
Yeah.
able to talk a lot of men out of that because, at least for men, testosterone is a very predictable tool. It's good to have good testosterone, but um, being on testosterone also lowers our sperm count. So being on about 60 to 80% decrease in viable sperm count generally on a moderate dose of testosterone replacement. And many young men are going straight to that. So one of my passions is to help give, especially
Yeah.
young men, another way to still perform great, feel great, optimize their workouts, and same. I work with a lot of patients that have been through similar journeys to you in some ways of like chronic infections and different things that have already been treated, but they're just not quite healed like internally. And so a lot of times
Mhm.
mitochondrial peptides, something that can increase their cellular energy enough to just get past that little bit. It's not that everyone needs those, but like you said, like it's that little nudge of like, hey, there is enough NAD